What if we started taxing billionaires more? What if we had a system to make them give more of their money to taxes and pour it all into America's biggest social programs? Sounds like the ultimate fix, right? A game changer that could finally level the playing field. Well, the harsh reality is, even if we drained every last cent from billionaires, it wouldn't even scratch the surface of what's needed. Stick around to find out why taxing billionaires isn't the miracle cure you think it is. It has been a ringing idea that if we taxed the wealthiest Americans more, we'd have enough to cover essential programs like Social Security, Medicare, and other public safety nets. But that's a huge misconception. The reality? These programs are enormously expensive to fund, far beyond what increased taxation of the rich could ever sustainably cover. Take Social Security. So far in 2024, it has already cost over $1 trillion to fund. And get this, it's the #1 expense for the United States, even outspending the military. Yeah, the same military that burns through cash like it's monopoly money. And that's just one program. Total government spending on programs like these is staggering, meaning even if every billionaire in America wrote a blank check to cover these costs, it wouldn't come close to fully funding them. Don't believe me? Here are the stats. In 2024, the United States had 737 billionaires, with a total wealth of about $5.5 trillion. Meanwhile, the federal government has already spent over $675 trillion this year on various programs. Comparing these figures, even if the government took every dollar billionaires own, which they obviously can't, it would cover less than 1 year of federal spending. That's right. The combined wealth of all billionaires couldn't fund the US budget for a full year, let alone 2. Even if it could, attempting this would tank the economy. Billionaire wealth isn't sitting in a vault somewhere Scrooge McDuck style. It's tied up in businesses, investments, and assets that drive jobs and innovation. You strip that away, and you're not just hurting billionaires. You're dragging down entire industries and the people who rely on them. So where did this idea come from then? Well, politicians. For them, shouting "tax the rich" is the ultimate crowd pleaser. A slogan that fires up frustrated voters sick of seeing inequality everywhere they look. But let's be real, it's just an attractive lie. It's a dog chasing its tail, a soundbite that sounds like a solution but leads nowhere. Why? Because behind the catchy words, the math falls apart. The idea that taxing the wealthy could cover all our financial gaps is more about votes than viability. It's designed to rile up, not to resolve. By the way, if you have made it this far in the video, please stop and hit that subscribe button. We have some hot videos coming your way, and we want you to be a part of the discussion. So, who or what is actually driving the financial strain? It's definitely not the rich dodging taxes. The real culprit here is the sheer expense of these programs, and a budget that hemorrhages cash with no accountability, combined with the fact that the government often has to issue debt, taking on loans or printing more money, to keep them running once taxpayer contributions run dry. Now, what does issuing debt actually mean? Simply put, the government borrows money to fund these programs. And just like any loan, that money has to be repaid with interest. The debt keeps growing, piling on top of itself, making it harder and harder to get out. So when we talk about a solution, taxing the rich isn't the golden ticket, it seems. Nice try, though. If there's one real solution here, it's this. Cut the programs. Sounds harsh, right? But realistically, if these programs keep costing as much as they do, any other fix will only be temporary. The hard truth is, without cutting or restructuring these programs, there's no sustainable way to keep them fully funded. But does anyone want to hear that? Of course not. It's way easier to just point fingers and say, tax the billionaires. If we're being real, we know that no politician would ever win an election by saying, let's shrink these programs. That's political suicide. So instead, they double down on the easy sell, and so the push continues to try to redistribute wealth through taxation of the wealthy, even when it is proven there ain't no miracle in that. The fact is, everyone is excited about taking as long as they are on the receiving end, and that can be proven in so many ways. But take this for example. You've worked super hard and earned a top GPA, but now the school's taking points from you to boost others who didn't work as hard. Yeah, you're a top student, putting in the hours, working hard, and it's paid off, but now you have to share your reward, no questions asked. Let's see how college students react when asked this question.
Talking to students about their opinions of socialism and if they'd support a socialist GPA policy. Would they be willing to share their high GPA with people that have a low GPA? Because after all, it's all about equality. Which would you rather have in America, socialism or capitalism?
I would say socialism.
How do you view the word socialism, favorably or unfavorably?
I guess I would go with favorably.
Like, I have family in Europe. They go to college for free. Their healthcare is paid for. They don't have to worry about it at all.
I favor that over capitalism.
Okay, got it.
I also think I favor that, like, socialism over capitalism.
Socialism is more geared toward like helping the people in your, the governed.
I'd rather people have that same opportunity. There's a lot of excess in America.
The main idea of socialism being that people at the top are doing their fair share to help people at the bottom, trying to prevent disparity of income and trying to prevent excess, as you called it. So on campus, if there's a GPA disparity where there's people at the bottom with a poor GPA, would you support a policy where people at the top spread the wealth and give that GPA to people at the bottom?
Help them get a better GPA.
Yeah.
I'm all for helping. I wouldn't give let me just give you some of my points.
But it's about being fair, right? We got to help people at the bottom.
I've lost a lot of sleep, so I don't know if I will be fair.
It's hard. I guess it would be kind of like hypocritical for me to say no.
That's completely different.
How is it different?
Because I'm studying all day for my grade.
What do you mean by sharing it? Like literally, like giving them a chunk of my GPA?
Yep.
Dang.
I would want to say no straight up.
But what's the difference between earning a high GPA and not wanting to give it away, but then earning a lot of money and also not wanting to give that away?
Well, I feel like the difference is that you study for your grades, right? And grades often reflect how much time you spend studying. But
You gotta work pretty hard to become a millionaire.
I mean, I'm not denying that fact either, but for the regular working person,
Yeah, suddenly it isn't fair when it comes to sharing what you worked hard for, but it's definitely fair to take the rich people's money, right? Because they didn't work hard too. Very ironic. Let's break it down. Nobody spends sleepless nights studying, sacrificing their social life, and grinding for that 4.0 just to hand it over to someone who skipped half their classes. And let's be real. How many people even have a high enough GPA to go around? Not enough to make a dent in the average, just like taxing the rich isn't a magic fix for systemic problems. Here's the valid point. Redistributing GPA doesn't make anyone smarter, just like redistributing wealth without fixing broken systems doesn't solve poverty. Effort matters, strategy matters, and pretending the top can carry the bottom without structural change, that's just lazy thinking. So, here's the bottom line. Overtaxing billionaires might feel like a win, but it's not a feasible solution to these huge economic issues. The only true fix would involve hard decisions around program spending, but that's not something the public is eager to accept. Because honestly, we all love to cheer for the tax the rich solution, as long as we're not the ones picking up the check. America's financial problems are more than just a tax the rich debate. They're a cycle that won't break until we start talking about the actual cost of the programs we depend on. Economic structures are complex, and no single policy, like taxing the rich, will solve every issue. This is a perfect example of why it's so important to ask questions and look beyond the headlines. So the next time you hear about billionaires and increased taxes linked in the same sentence, remember that it's often a dead-end narrative. Economic challenges require sustainable solutions. Case closed. If you found this breakdown helpful, let us know in the comments. And subscribe for more deep dives into today's biggest issues. Let's keep questioning, learning, and looking beyond the sound bites together.